put y'all on camera. We ready to go? Yeah. Hi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وكذلك يجتبيك ربك ويعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث ويتم نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما أتمها على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق إن ربك عليم حكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي فالحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, everybody. Today we're going to try to contemplate some of the teachings and wisdom captured inside ayah number 6 of Surah Yusuf. This is the second part of what Yusuf's father Yaqub said to him. The first ayah where he talked to him and told him his reaction to the dream was in ayah number 5. I talked to you guys about that yesterday. And today we're going to take the second item that he said to him, which Allah separated in ayah number 6. And clearly you can see why, because it's almost a completely different subject matter. The first thing I'm going to do is translate this ayah phrase by phrase. So you have an idea of what's compiled in it. What are the comments that Yaqub made to Yusuf, what Jacob made to Joseph. And then we're going to try to deconstruct and understand some of the logic and wisdom behind each of those phrases and what that means for us. So let's get started. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. And that is how your master has selected you or has chosen you. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And is teaching you and will continue to teach you from all kinds from interpretation and what lies behind all kinds of speech and events. وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. And He is going to be completing His favor on you. وَعَلَى آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. And He will be completing His favor on the lineage of Jacob. So Jacob is talking, Yaqub is talking, and he's saying Allah will be completing His favor on you and on the lineage of Yaqub. كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَى أَبَوَيْكَ. Just as He completed that favor, His favor, on both of your fathers, min qablu, from not so long ago, Ibrahim wa Ishaq, Abraham and Isaac, Ibrahim and Ishaq, which means he's referring to his great-grandfather Ibrahim, then his grandfather Ishaq, and then his own father is Yaqub. So father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all got mentioned. Okay, so Allah will complete His favor on you, meaning Yusuf, and on the family of Jacob, meaning himself, just as He did on both of your fathers, Ibrahim, great-grandfather, and Ishaq, your grandfather. Inna rabbaka alimun hakim. Certainly your master is knowledgeable, wise. So that's what he says. Clearly you can tell in this ayah there are two parts. One part, Allah is talking about the future of Yusuf. He has chosen you and will be teaching you, and He'll be completing His favor. This is not stuff that has happened yet. He's anticipating that this will happen, and that favor will actually continue not only to you, but to the family of Jacob. So we'll deconstruct all of that, but that's stuff to come, right? But then He switches over and starts talking about the past, and just as He completed this favor on your fathers, Ibrahim and Ishaq, now He's taking him to the past. So one part of this ayah is going into the future, and the other part of this ayah is going into the past, but all of it is about Allah's blessing, Allah's ni'mah, and Allah selecting, and Allah choosing, and Allah then on top of that, giving ni'mah, giving preference, giving comfort, giving relaxation, also giving His blessings. So these things are all very positive, which is a complete difference from the previous ayah. Don't tell this what you've seen, this dream of yours to your brothers. There's going to scheme against you. The devil is a real enemy. That's what we talked about yesterday, right? So it was so negative and warning, and then all of a sudden we're in this really positive, happy world where things are going to work out. You have a great future, just like you come from a great past. That's kind of like what's being said here. So the first thing to note is why this stark contrast, and why did He start with the negative and come into the positive? This is the first kind of observation. You would think for a child, first you want to give them consolation, you want to give them, the positive, and then, sometimes you say to somebody, you want the good news or the bad news kind of thing, right? So he did the bad news first, didn't He? And then He said the good news. The good news is always easy to share with family. And the good news makes you optimistic and hopeful, and it makes you positive. Obviously, all of this is going to be positive reinforcement, as we will see. But before you become unrealistically positive, because the Islam doesn't teach us to be positive without an eye on reality. And once you have a good grasp of the reality on the ground, where your brothers are an immediate threat, And unfortunately, they've succumbed to the constant whisper of the devil. When you're saying things like that, that's a pretty dark reality. And if you only talk about a dark reality, you can become pessimistic and hopeless and only think about the negatives in your life, right? And even as a child, you might develop a kind of anxiety. What are my brothers going to do to me next? How is shaitan going to come at me next? There's going to be this negative kind of, shaitan's everywhere. He's going to get me somehow, outlook on the world. And it's not just about this child. We can develop that kind of a worldview. We can just look at the dark realities around us and the people that are giving us a difficult time in our families, sometimes close ones, outsiders, whoever, and we can just consume ourselves, our minds and our hearts with what they do and what they might do and how else the devil will come at us. Maybe it's people on the outside, maybe it's your own thoughts on the inside, and that can become an all-consuming thing. So on the one hand, if you only talk about the problem, then you become this paranoid, pessimistic, hopeless, constantly scared and anxious kind of person. On the other hand, if you only talk about or you start off talking only about the positives, then you become, so Allah will take care of it. Yeah, but your brothers, no, Allah will take care of it. It's okay, no problem. That's not realistic either. So what Quran teaches is this pragmatic, this practical optimism that is rooted in reality. First of all, you take precaution of what dangers lie in front of you. But even though you're taking precaution and the devil is real, you have on the one hand the devil, and look at the contrast. As soon as the ayah ended, the previous ayah, Allah said, "Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin." The devil is definitely an enemy to the human being. And right as soon as his animosity, the devil's animosity was ended, now Allah said, well, if that's your enemy, who's your support? Your Rabb. Your Rabb has chosen you. Right? So it's almost like the devil versus God, immediately next to each other. And that's really the struggle every human being has since the time of Adam alayhi salam. There's a constant effort by the devil to pull you away, and there's a call from Allah who has selected you. Right? So he's making his son aware of that. And he's making him aware that yes, there is this negative reality or this negative environment that you're in, but there is hope into the future. This is a pretty powerful outlook for as a worldview, even as a child. Yes, there's going to be really harsh things and difficult things that are going to happen, but I'm never going to become hopeless because Allah has selected me. I have a higher purpose. So that's kind of the transition. It also teaches us that there is a danger in cushioning and keeping our children from or making our children unprepared for real life if we deprive them from either one of these. We should make them aware of difficult situations and difficult realities. We should also instill hope and confidence in them. Because if any one of those is missing, then they're not going to be able to have a balanced life. They're not going to be able to deal with life in the way that they should be able to deal. And that can affect their adult life, actually, not just their childhood. It'll actually affect and impact their adult life. So may Allah give us the ability to raise our children and instill in them these kinds of values and feelings at the right time and continue to nurture them so they grow up to be much better adults than we are and much more balanced than we are ourselves. Anyhow, now let's get into the ayah itself. وَكَذَلِكَ. Now I'm going to go phrase by phrase. The first wording of this ayah is وَكَذَلِكَ, and that is how. And that is how. Then he says, يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ, your master has chosen you. The first question arises, what do you mean that is how? So that's been answered by the following. What I've read thus far and what I've discussed thus far is, it means by showing you the stream, clearly this is how Allah has chosen you. Listen to this. It seems as if Yaqub, who has these 12 sons, has been keeping an eye on this boy, and he's noticing that this boy has some special qualities that he hasn't seen anywhere. And you can tell, hindsight is 20/20. We know the entire story. Later on, you find when he's sold into slavery, from the ride to be sold as a slave to the time the minister brought him to the house, already he's so impressed with him that he's ready to adopt him. Right? So Yusuf carries himself a certain way that's special. And even a stranger can see that. He didn't just purchase a slave. He purchased someone highly intelligent, with great character. He's very impressed with him to the point where he wants to keep him as his own. Right? And who buys a servant or hires a servant, and the first thing he says to the lady of the house is, Akrimi mathwahu, honor his housing. Treat him with respect and honor the place you give him. Don't just give him a corner shed. Basically, that's the first thing he says to her. And then he says he could be beneficial to us, or we could take him as our own child. We should be able to adopt him too. That's the option he's considering for a slave he just bought. So he sees something special in him. What I'm saying is, if that minister is that observant in a couple of hours, I would argue that Yaqub alayhi salam, as I've tried to portray, is an extremely observant father. So he's noticing things in Yusuf alayhi salam that are kind of signs of prophethood. And Yusuf hasn't told him a dream yet, but from early age, you can kind of see this kid is not like other kids. The way he carries himself, the way his manners, his respectfulness, his eagerness towards worship, he has these qualities that are just unusual for a child. And by the way, if a child were to see in a dream that he's better than everybody else, or overpowering everybody else, or he's got some miraculous gift and the sun and the moon are falling before him, kids can easily become spoiled and say, yeah, I am special. And if dad is treating him special, then when a kid gets treated special and they know it, that's like the best ingredients to get spoiled rotten. And then throw it in the other sibling's face. Yeah, dad's not going to yell at me though. He's going to yell at you. Watch. Right? That's the mentality they're going to develop. And yet, Yusuf alayhi salam is so, so down to earth. Even as a kid, he doesn't let anything get to his head. To the point where you can also go back and say when the father said, don't tell your brothers this dream. Right? Don't narrate this to them. You know what that even suggests? It suggests that clearly they're mean to him all the time, but he still doesn't respond by being mean back to them. He still wants to go and talk to them like maybe if I talk to them this way, they'll open up. Maybe I talk to them that way, they'll open up. Maybe if I'm kind to them. Maybe if I break some conversation with them. Okay, they don't want to talk to me, I'll still want to go talk to them. He's actually going out of his way. And this annoys them even more because they're not good to him. And so if he could just lose his cool once or get in trouble or break something, then they can say, aha, gotcha. But he's just too perfect and it's just bothering them. Like it's eating away at them that he's so good. And then dad sees it too, and now he's got these signs of prophecy and if he could, they know because they're children of Yaqub and then Ishaq and then Ibrahim that Allah has promised prophecy in this family. Prophethood will continue, right? And they kind of see it too. Like dad's kind of really impressed with the way he carries himself. So maybe he's going to be the prophet. And Yaqub alayhi salam almost, it's like waiting for a confirmation from Allah that his hunch is right. And so when he tells him his dream, now Yaqub alayhi salam is saying, and that's how your master has chosen you. Ah, I see. It's like almost as if he's saying, I've been waiting for this day. I was wondering how he's going to choose you. What was the first revelation to you going to be? Like how was he going to let you know that you have been chosen for prophecy? And I see that Allah chose this dream to be that way. So this is Yaqub alayhi salam's way of confirming that dream is in fact revelation, and he as a prophet knows that too. Right? The dream he heard isn't just some convoluted thoughts he had in his sleep, but it's actually revelation. And this is the first bit of revelation that Yusuf alayhi salam is given, and prophethood has begun. So he now is kind of relieved that, okay, this is the heir to this legacy of prophecy, that prophethood has come now to this family by way of Yusuf alayhi salam. So that's inside Kadhalika. But the dream was mentioned in ayah number 4. We're in ayah number 6, right? So when I say, and by showing you this dream, that's how Allah has chosen you, then we're going back to ayah number 4. But father, after ayah number 4 and ayah number 5 said, don't tell your brothers, they're going to scheme against you, meaning the moment the dad heard the dream, he knew trouble is coming, yes? So the father, upon hearing this dream, didn't just recognize that this boy is special, he recognized that this dream contains in it ingredients for a conflict that is going to happen between Yusuf and his brothers. This dream is telling him that there's going to be a clash. And in that clash, eventually Yusuf will be on top. Eventually they'll be humbled by the plan of Allah. Eventually they'll fall into sajda. But they wouldn't have to be in that. They're clearly not this way. They're bullies to him now. So there's a clash coming, right? And so in that kadhalika, there's something else. In whatever difficult situations are about to come, and they will come, in all of that, you should know Allah has chosen you because you could have handled them, nobody else could have. It's not just a dream. That's the reason Allah has chosen you. It's actually also the events that are to transpire. Just know that those adventures that you're going to go through, the trauma that you're going to go through, eventually the relief that you're going to experience, all of that is part of the plan. All of that is something Allah has prepared you for. So that's inside the word kadhalika. But then, also inside the word kadhalika, I told you before, Yusuf alayhi salam, with the way he's told his father the dream, the father could tell this kid's figured it out. This kid's pretty smart, the way he spoke. But there are a few things I want to capture in the way Yusuf spoke. First of all, you can tell Yusuf is analytical alayhi salam, he figured out what the dream means. Second of all, you could tell the way he was speaking the way Yusuf was speaking, that he has a lot of manners in his speech. Like he was hesitant to put the sajda thing too close to the wording, and he was reluctant to put himself in this aggrandized position. So there's a character and mannerism in his speech. What Yaqub is saying is, because of the way you carry yourself, because of the humility you demonstrate, and because of this analytical skill, these things Allah has given you, and these skills are such that I know this is why Allah has chosen you of this family to have the gift of prophecy. And that's when we get to the words يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. Your master has selected you. And the Arabic language has several words for selection. And three of them that I'd like you to just kind of be introduced to are ikhtiyar, istifa, and ijtiba. So ikhtiyar comes from khayr. Khayr means good. Ikhtiyar, from it comes the word istikhara, like the istikhara prayer, right? So istikhara means to pray for the better choice. Istikhara has the word khayr in it. Khayr means what is good, right? So to try to choose something that is good or something better. When you choose something because of the good in it, that's called ikhtiyar. That's the word Allah used for Musa alayhi salam when he came to the mountain and God told him, I have chosen you. He said, Ana akhtartuka. I have made a choice of you because of the good I see in you. That's basically what he's telling him. Why? Because Musa alayhi salam carried the guilt of having killed somebody, right? So he feels like maybe he's not good enough for this. So Allah says, no, I see good in you. You don't have to see it in yourself, I see it in you. So he said, Ana akhtartuka. That's ikhtiyar. Another word is istifa. Istifa is two things, and I'll speak in kind of difficult English and then I'll simplify it. Ikhtiyar is the selector and the selected, right? So if I'm picking a shirt in the store, I'm the selector and the shirt is the selected. If I choose something because of how pure it is, then that's istifa. It also means it's purely my choice. Nobody can question where that choice came from because istifa comes from safwa, purity. In other words, when I make a choice, why'd you get the blue one? Why didn't you get the red one? Why? Well, I like the blue one. That's purely my discretion. I don't have to give you a logical explanation. I just have to say I like blue. That's all I have to say. That's called istifa. Allah uses that for when He chose which angels shall deliver revelation and which men should become messengers. Because nobody gets to say, why Muhammad? Why not some millionaire in Makkah? Why not one of the Israelites? You don't get to say that. Allahu yastafi min al-malaikati rusulan wa min al-nas. Allah is the one who selects. And He selects and He owes you no explanation because it's purely His choice. He doesn't owe you an explanation. He doesn't need your input. And there's nobody else influencing His decision. It's purely Him. That's why istifa. But this word for choosing, so the one was when you choose something because of the good in it. The other is when the choice is purely your own and you don't owe anybody an explanation. But here, He could have said, وَكَذَلِكَ يَصْطَفِيكَ رَبُّكَ. That would have meant, that's how Allah has chosen you for reasons only He knows. That's not what He said. He said, وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. And yajtabika is the third word for choice. It comes from jabwa. Jabwa was used in ancient Arabic for people, in some kingdoms when they collect tax, like nowadays also we collect tax. Not everybody can pay tax. So you have to have a certain income level where you're qualified to pay tax. And you have that responsibility on you. It developed as a term for when you make a selection based on a purpose. Like some families are selected to pay taxes because for the purpose of tax selection because they can, right? So let me bring it closer to home. If you're drilling a hole in the wall and you need a screwdriver, depending on the kind of screw, you're going to pick a specific kind of screwdriver. The wrong kind won't do. A spoon won't do here, right? A napkin won't do here. You need a screwdriver. When you pick the right tool for the right job, that's called ijtiba because this tool will serve that purpose. So the point is, when a selection is made based on a purpose, I have a mission, I need someone for that mission. This is why ijtiba would be actually closer to hiring. When somebody hires somebody in a company, they interview different people, then they say, this person is the best fit for the job. So that's kind of an ijtiba. Okay, because they've been selected for a purpose. Now, that word, يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ, suggests what? It suggests that Yaqub alayhi salam sees that you have demonstrated certain skills and you have demonstrated certain manners, which Allah will use to put you in all kinds of situations, and that's why He selected you to be a prophet. Your analytical skills, your ability, the way you describe this dream to me and what is going to be happening to you, it's clear Allah doesn't just mean for you to go through triumph. He's selected you because you're going to go through some serious trials too. And that's how Allah has done it. By way of this dream, it's not just the blessing of that dream, but that dream entails in it quite a saga. And He can tell. And all of that is Allah choosing that for you. This is profound because for us, the story of our lives is basically inna ma'al usri yusra. Difficulty, then ease, then difficulty, then ease, and difficulty, and then ease. That's all of our lives. When the moment you start thinking, I have hit ease and there's no more difficulty to come, you're delusional. There's another difficulty coming. It'll be a different shape. It'll be a different size. And after that difficulty, Allah will bring you another ease. And then another difficulty and another ease. That's life. That's just how Allah created life. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Allah created the human being in laborsome toil. That's just how He made us, right? Now the thing is, the difficulties that you had to face, Allah chose those for you. And He chose you for them. Listen to we hear the first part before. Yes, Allah chose my trials for me. Allah wrote the story of my life. But Allah chose me because I have certain qualities to go through those tests successfully. Like He picked me for this story. Anybody else could have had my life story, but He picked me for it. Because He knew I'm the right person for this adventure. You understand? That's what his father is telling Yusuf alayhi salam. Allah has chosen you, and when Allah especially selects a prophet for that purpose, Allah never selects someone like that without them having monumental challenges in front of them. You know, you don't get an important job without having a difficult mission. You know, the highest paying jobs have the most complicated tasks, right? If it's a simple task, anybody could do it. So you have to demonstrate a very high aptitude of some kind to qualify for a very high caliber job. The higher the job, the more you have to be qualified. When Allah is choosing you, then you've clearly demonstrated some very high caliber. And that's what He's capturing inside وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ. He's telling His son, you aren't just a kid. Don't just think you just saw a dream. This skill that you have or this talent that you have to be so analytical and thoughtful, it's not just some trivial thing. This is your master choosing you. Now that's amazing because usually when somebody has a talent nowadays, right? When kids have a talent, like this kid's good at baseball, or that kid is good at athletics, or this kid's good at robotics, or some other kid is good at programming, or some kid's good at art. We say, you're so good at it. Let me put you in a competition. Let me get you some prizes. And we want to hone their skill. And the more they're honing their skill, the more arrogant they're becoming. They're hanging medals on their wall, or awards or certificates, right? And then the parents are showcasing them. My kid won this or that or the other. And the more our children accomplish, the more we think of them as like feathers in our proverbial hat, like accomplishment for ourselves, right? Oh, my kid goes to this school and they're on this scholarship and they got this program and they won this championship. They're on the soccer team, they're on this team, they're on that team. This kind of an accomplishment thing for our children. But what does he do when he sees his child having a remarkable ability? He says, your master has selected you. When he calls him your master, what does that make you? A slave. In other words, you have profound talent, so profound that Allah has chosen you. He didn't just say Allah chose you, your master chose you. He chose you to be a really good slave. And slave, by definition, is the most humble label you can have. Isn't it? SubhanAllah, a child is being told you've got remarkable talent, and because of it, you should be humble. Because there's someone over you that gave that to you. It's not yours. You're not special. He is. He made you special. He chose you for a special task. And that also means this ability I have doesn't make me special. What makes me special is I fulfill the purpose for which I was given this ability. The talent and the skill and the gift doesn't make me special. It's the fact that I'm going to put that gift to use for the service of my master. That's what makes me special. You get it? So you can have a gift, but a million people can have a gift. I can tell you a story for myself. Now, I won't put anybody down individually, but I can tell you something I learned being an employer. I've been an employee and I've been an employer. And when I've been an employer, I've met some very talented people, extremely talented. Some of these young men and women that when I hired them as teachers, I said, man, they are way better teachers than I will ever be. I won't even come close. They're rock stars. They're unbelievable. Like I saw them and I would look at them, young guy, 20 years old, and he's teaching like he's been teaching for 30 years. And I'm just in absolute awe. Like, this is incredible. Allah has given this young man a gift. But can't show up on time, can't respond to emails, can't grade students' exams properly, can't take care of any responsibilities, can't say, when he says yes, doesn't mean yes. When he says inshallah, means most likely not. Can't show up to any meetings. no punctuality, no discipline, no professionalism, no keeping up with the word. No, 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 no. But talent, unbelievable. Unbelievable talent. What am I going to do with that talent if you can't put it to work? And I'd literally say, you have such an amazing talent, but you're wasting it away because you think your talent is enough for you to get a free ride from all the other responsibilities you have to carry. You can't live life like that. You can't survive like that. You know, this is what happens, unfortunately, to people that when they have a talent and they're put on a pedestal because they think their talent is enough for them to be appreciated constantly, so they don't have to carry other burdens and they don't have to carry a character with them, right? And that's because they start thinking, I am so special, I can get away with anything, and I can be a brat. And that's why you find in modern culture, let's leave Islam for a second, when young kids become celebrity musicians, actors, you see how horribly rotten and spoiled they are? Like what terrible examples of actual human beings they become? Because they've been put on this pedestal with no ounce of humility coming from anywhere. Like there's no access to this creature called humility. That if that was a bacteria, it's been pulled out of their system. But what is this father doing when he sees this remarkable talent of Prophet? And by the way, I mean, you hardly get a higher position than being the minister of Egypt, in charge of feeding the entire nation. That's a pretty high position. And يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ, your master has selected you. It's amazing that on the one hand you've been validated, and on the other hand you've also been humbled. But the most beautiful part of this is the father didn't humble him. He's telling him the one to humble you will be who? Your Rabb. Because for some people they say, I have to humble my children by putting them down, like you're acting in the place of the Rabb. You cannot humble anyone. If they don't recognize that their Rabb is the one humbling them, you have failed, because a time will come when they say, I don't need to be humbled to you, you're old, you're retired, you have arthritis, you can't beat me with that belt anymore. You can't yell at me anymore. You live off of my paycheck. They'll talk back to you. That day can come. But the amazing thing here is Yaqub alayhi salam is giving him a life lesson whether Yaqub is around or not. Look, I may not be there to humble you, to keep you in check, but your Rabb will always be there. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. What a profound teaching. And you have to understand, Yusuf alayhi salam's story is so important for parents, because here's a child who is going to be in a non-Muslim environment with no parental supervision for most of his youth. No, for all of his youth, sorry. No parental supervision. And these few words that Yaqub is saying him is the last bit of advice we're going to see him hear. I mean, Allah chose to tell us in His Quran that the father told him the few things that are in this ayah, and then there's no other conversation. There must have been many other conversations, but the one Allah wanted for us to keep until Judgment Day is this one. This ayah alone. Ayah number 6. And ayah number 6 has in it ingredients for a young man to end up in a foreign country as a slave, where he has, slaves can do whatever they want in their free time, right? They can be there's nobody telling them what's right and wrong. So long as they do the master's groceries and clean the lawn or whatever, then they got to do whatever they got to do. Like kids in recess. And there's no, my dad's going to get me in trouble, or I'm going to get in trouble. Nothing. You can use whatever language you want. You can eat whatever you want. You can be friends with whatever you want. You can engage in whatever behavior you want. You've got a kind of crazy freedom. And on top of that, is he living in a Muslim family? Is he living in a righteous household? He's living in a politician's house in Egypt. So it's not exactly that he's surrounded by this righteous environment, and he has every reason to be messed up. Every reason to be messed up. And the words that he's being given are going to shield him from it. Why? Because he won't forget what's being said here. This is going to get drilled in his head. My master has selected me for a purpose. I wasn't just selected. And it's amazing because somebody else getting kidnapped and thrown in a well and sold into slavery and falsely imprisoned would say, why me, why me, why me? And here you have Yusuf thinking, I have a purpose. This is also for a purpose. This is all, my father told me this. This is for a purpose. There's a reason behind this. And nobody else could have been put in this trial except me. It had to be me. He's got this positive outlook even in the middle of the worst negativity. Even as in the terror of being thrown into a well, there's a purpose to this. There's a reason this is happening. So, وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. Now we come to the next phrase. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. They translate this as saying, and he's teaching you of interpretation of dreams. I strongly disagree. Let's break this up. I will translate this, or interpret this rather, as he has commenced your teaching. Your teaching from Allah has now begun. I can see that Allah has started the lessons. Lesson 1, you can tell this dream isn't just about the stars and the sun and the moon. It's about your own family. You can tell. What exactly this means, you don't know yet. But you can tell that this is something coming. And it has to do with the family. So the fact that you can see even that much means your teaching from Allah has already begun. If he knew everything to know about this dream, he wouldn't even come to the dad. But the fact that he came to the dad, he does need some counsel, right? Now, Yaqub alayhi salam is telling him that this teaching has started, but it's not ended. It's an ongoing thing. And teaching, as opposed to informing, is very different. When you say yunabbi'uka, he informs you. Yumbi'uka, yukhbiruka, he informs you. Yuhdithuka, he informs you. Those are words for immediate. If I inform you of something right now, it's done. But teaching you takes time. Teaching you takes practice and exercise and rigor, doesn't it? So Allah is telling, through the tongue of Yaqub alayhi salam, He's telling Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah has a plan to teach you a lot. And teaching means you're going to be in different learning environments. And eventually, He will teach you even what this dream means in whole. That's at the end of the surah, isn't it? But a lot of people assume when they read this ayah, Allah has chosen you for this dream and He'll teach you eventually what it means. Meaning when it comes to pass, at the end. But He didn't say here, ahlam or ar-ru'a. He said, وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. Listen to this carefully now. He will teach you from the interpretation of all kinds of speech. All kinds of speech. I thought the conversation wasn't about speech. It was about what? A dream. But the word dream is gone now. The word dream has been left behind. A hadith has taken its place. Al-ahadith in Arabic means conversations, communications. Actually, a hadith comes from hadath, which means an event. And it can mean an event which leads to conversations. Hadith also means new or modern, meaning new things that are said that were not said before. New things, new events that are experienced that were not experienced before. So a hadith is a loaded term. What Yaqub alayhi salam is telling Yusuf is that I can see that Allah has a plan for you to be able to interpret all kinds, different kinds of speech. You're going to be put in very different kinds of environments where you're going to hear very, very different kinds of speech. You're going to be exposed to very different worlds. And each one of those worlds will have their own new kind of speech. And you'll be able to figure out how people work and how they communicate and what they mean and what is behind. There's something they say, but you will be able to tell what is behind it. And that's the word ta'wil. Ta'wil means not just what someone's saying, what is behind it. Ya'ul, what does it result in? Or what does it come from originally? What's the original thought process behind what you're saying? You're saying one thing, but I could see where your mind was working 10 steps behind this that led you to say these words. You have that talent. You don't just hear words, you hear what is behind that and behind that and behind that and where it all started. You don't just see the tree, you see the root deep inside the ground. That's your talent. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. Now I'm going to jump ahead because again, hindsight is 20/20. We know the whole story. You know when he came into the master's house in Egypt? And the husband said, take care of him, give him good housing. Remember that part? I referred to it today. Immediately after that, you know what Allah said? كَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. That is how we settled Yusuf in the land so we could teach him interpretation of all kinds of speech. That exact phrase that the father told him, Allah said, and that's how we made that happen for him the moment he got settled in the house of the Egyptian minister. Now think about this. When he's in the house of an Egyptian minister, what role does he play? Servant, right? Servant. And the Bible tells us that he became the most trusted servant. The master would leave the keys to the house with him. Okay, now, if he's in that house, he's in the house cleaning the kitchen, he can hear the politician's wife lady, and her friends come over, and he knows what rich, wealthy women talk about, and what kind of character they have, and what kind of life they live, and what kind of things are important to them. He knows that world. Does the farmer know that world? Does the outside market person know that world? He knows that world on the inside. We hear about the politicians in the news. He doesn't hear about them in the news. He sees what they're like and their families are like when the cameras are off. He doesn't know the press conference. He knows what's happening behind the press conference. And then when he hears the press conference, oh, this is what they're saying, but this is what's behind it. And when his politician master comes home and he brings some of his friends from his party, or they talk about the king, or they talk about this, or they talk about the police, or they talk about whatever, he's mopping the floor hearing all those conversations, isn't he? And he sees what they're like in private, how they plan, how they design, how they think about the economy, what they think about the poor, what they think about the rich, what they think about the government, what they think about foreign countries. He's hearing international relations, he's hearing politics, economics, sociology, psychology. He's hearing all of this from this world that nobody has access to. And he's hearing it, and he's so analytical because he's the son of Yaqub. He's taking it all in. And then his master sends him go outside, do the groceries, right? And when he goes to the groceries, he hears what the farmer talks about. He hears what the poor servants talk about. He hears what those people talk about outside in the street, the everyday workers. And then when he has to go to lunch, he's having lunch with the rest of the slaves, isn't he? And the slaves are their own world. And they talk their own certain way. And eventually he's going to get thrown in jail. And criminals are their own world. They have their own reality. They see life very differently than a politician does, than what a farmer does, than a laborer does, than the servants. My God, one man having access, inside access, to all of these worlds, and how different people talk, and how they communicate, and what emotions and thought processes and life experiences are behind them. Yaqub alayhi salam, in one phrase dropped on him, Allah has chosen you with this special talent. He's about to teach you the interpretation of all kinds of speech. And not just dreams. Whoa! Whoa, that's called embedded journalism. You know that? And even embedded journalists, when they go in, the people know it's a journalist, so they act different. And here you have Yusuf completely immersed, not like a journalist. He's literally a fly on the wall in all of these worlds, and he has first-hand access to how people work, how psychology works, how thought processes work from all these different worlds that, I come from a certain background. I can't relate to somebody else from a different background, or a different economic class, or a different level of hardship, but Yusuf alayhi salam can. When he's going to become a politician, he'll understand how the politicians think, how the ministers think, how the military thinks, how their families think, how the peasants think, how the middle class thinks, how the business class thinks, how the merchants think, how the criminals think. He has a sensitivity to all of them. It's amazing. And that's just one part of it. That's the part that he's being exposed to there. But even before, even in the things that Allah shows him from the unseen, like a dream, he can figure those out. So he's got this spiritual talent of interpretation, and he's got this worldly talent of interpretation. It's not just about dreams. And so the word is changed to وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْحَدِيثِ. Allah is going to teach you interpretation of all kinds of speech. وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. Then he says, and he will complete his favor on you. Allah will complete his favor on you. Now, scholars started debating, well, he's already chosen him, which is Allah's favor on him. So what's this completing favor on him, right? So it kind of became a dichotomy. My reading of it, I will share with you. You are free to do your own reading on the subject. And Sheikh Sahib was rather in agreement with this also. The Quran uses the words completing the favor on you for our messenger too, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَلِيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ وَيَهْدِيَكَ صِرَاطًا مُسْتَقِيمًا. Or in Surah Al-Ma'idah, أَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. When the revelation was completed, Quran was completed, Allah said, I have completed my favor upon you. When Hudaybiyah happened, Allah said, so that He can complete His favor upon you. وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. He sent you a messenger so He can complete His favor upon you. He told the ummah. What does that mean? That means that this is a little bit of a loaded concept, so I need you to refresh your brains so you really understand what I'm getting at here. When Allah talks about favor or blessings, there are two kinds. So think of them as two cups, okay? Two kinds of blessings. One kind of blessing is the spiritual blessing of your faith. Yes? You can have a good situation or a bad situation, you still have the blessing of your faith. That's one. So even if Yusuf is in jail, he still has that blessing. When he's in a well, he still has that blessing. When he's being schemed against, he still has that blessing. When he's being falsely accused, he still has that blessing. Right? That blessing will never go away. So that's the spiritual blessing. That's the blessing of faith. The other blessing is the blessing of having an easier life where your faith is not being put to the test. Okay, so when comfort comes, that's also a blessing. When sickness goes away, that's also a blessing. When you find a job, that's also a blessing. When you reunite with your family, that's also a blessing. So there's the worldly blessings and there are spiritual blessings, yes? And we want both. We want the best of this world, and we want the best of the next world. Now, when Allah uses His blessing, when He used the phrase, His blessing, He's referring to the spiritual and combined with the worldly. When He tells His Prophet ﷺ, I have completed my favor on you. You know what that means? The spiritual blessing is completed, the Quran is going to be completed now in Revelation, and all the obstacles you had, all the enemies you had, have all been what? Defeated. All the challenges that were hurting you are defeated. The state of fear is gone, the anxiety is gone, the scheming is gone, all of that's done now. Because Allah has now done what? Completed His favor. Now, what's interesting, here's what's really beautiful. And we come back to Surah Yusuf for this. When Allah told His Prophet that He has completed His favor, or that He will complete His favor, that was all in Medina. The phrase told to Rasulullah ﷺ that Allah will complete His favor. Now what favor? Spiritual and worldly, yes? When did He tell him this? In what city? Medina. But Surah Yusuf was given to the Prophet ﷺ in when? Mecca. So when the Muslims, including the Prophet ﷺ, heard, and He will complete His favor upon you, that wasn't the first time they were hearing those words. They had already heard those words on the tongue of Yaqub in Surah Yusuf. And in Surah Yusuf, how did that play out? He held on to the spiritual blessing through all the trials. And eventually, Allah also gave him the material, the worldly blessing of the reunification of his family, the exoneration of his name, and now the kingdom and dominion lied under him. So it's almost as though when Allah, and if you think about what happened with Rasulullah ﷺ, through all those trials, he holds on to the spiritual blessing, but at the end of his career, he is reunited with his brethren who make tawbah and accept Islam, and the state of fear is gone, and dominion is under him, much like Yusuf alayhi salam. Isn't it? So actually, even in the phrase, يُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ, in the story of Yusuf, it was almost a foreshadowing, deliberately, for what's coming for Rasulullah ﷺ, because that exact phrase got used for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that helps us understand what was meant by it. What was meant by it, eventually you'll have triumph, not just of the spiritual kind, but also of the worldly kind. And that's how Allah will complete His favor on you. But in order to get to that triumph, you have to go through a lot of trials. And Allah doesn't just give you triumph without going through a lot of difficulty. Right? So, and by the way, just you having to interpret all kinds of speech and what's behind it, you can't be in a sheltered environment to do that. Right? You'd have to be in difficult environments to hear all kinds of speech, and then comes the triumph. Right? So, your life, Allah put you in some real weird situations. Some real crazy situations. And you were able to understand things about life that you didn't understand before. They made you connect to Allah in ways you didn't connect before. And those experiences taught you tawbah, they taught you sabr, they taught you reliance on Allah, they taught you what rizq means, they taught you what it means to be grateful, they taught you what pain really means. So next time you feel pain, you're like, no, this isn't pain, that was pain. I know what pain is. It teaches you grit, it builds you, and all of that will go towards Allah completing His blessing. These trials are just steps along the way, you know. It's kind of like when, there's this place in Malaysia, Seven Falls in this island in Langkawi. At the top, they've got this gorgeous waterfall, right? But it's I think it's like a 4-mile steps. So the steps every step you're taking, you're like, and they have benches every few hundred or few dozen steps, so you can feel like an old person and just kind of like, when I went up there, I saw like this old guy just keep going, and I sit down, and he just buzzes by me, and I get embarrassed. I was like, oh yeah, and then I go up a few, and then I'm like, no, okay, you win. Yeah. And then you get all the way up, and then you see this remarkable waterfall, and you see other valleys, and you're like up in the clouds. It's crazy. But to get there, you got to go through the steps. You see what I'm saying? You can't get to that beautiful place without the struggle. There's no easy way to get there. That's the only way you can get there, So that's kind of the imagery here. You will go through this journey, and eventually Allah will complete His favor on you. Now, hadith, another thing about hadith, it's not just speech. I told you it's related to hadath or haditha, which means an event or a situation. Also means an accident or a catastrophe. Allah will teach you what is behind different kinds of catastrophes. Allah will teach you what is actually behind different kinds of events. People will see the event for what it is and become reactive and become impulsive and say, oh, I can't believe this is happening. And you'll be able to take a step back and say, no. there's a larger chessboard here. There's a larger map. This is just one obstacle, but there's something behind this obstacle. There's a larger purpose. You won't become jumpy like others. You won't be like that. You'll chill and you'll be able to calmly, coolly, engage in a situation and be able to deal with it without becoming impulsive and jittery, and nervous. Because when people face a new situation, they get rattled. You're not going to be like that because you'll know what's behind it. You'll know what's coming after it. So وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْحَدِيثِ وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. Then he says وَعَلَى آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. Now things get really beautiful. And just as he completed his favor on, he'll complete his favor on you and on the family of Jacob. And on the family of Jacob. Now here's the thing. He could have said, and on my family. Because who's talking? Jacob is talking. So how's he saying his name in the third person? And al means children. Now I'm jumping ahead. There is an opinion I mentioned yesterday that some scholars believe that the sons of Yaqub, the other 11, also became prophets after they repented. Okay? Ibn Kathir, At-Tabari, Qurtubi, etc. are not of that view, and I would agree with them. I'm not of that view that they became prophets. Their reasons for saying that they're prophets, one of them is this. Because Allah says He will complete His favor on you and on the children of Yaqub. Another reason they say is Allah called them stars, and the stars are means by which people are guided. Right? I would argue, no, it's particular stars that guide people. Not all stars guide people. First of all, وَبِالنَّجْمِ, not nujumi, hum yahtadun, like the North Star guides people, for example. So that's why Alusi responds to that too and gives these counter arguments. Rahimahullah. But here let's talk about the favor given to the children of Yaqub. What did I say is the favor of Allah? Spiritual and material, right? Yusuf alayhi salam holds on to the spiritual favor while constantly losing which kind of favor? The material one. And eventually both come together. Yusuf's brothers hold on to material favor and lose which one? The spiritual one. And eventually they'll regain their spiritual favor by making tawbah. And it's so now, and Yaqub alayhi salam knows that this lineage, by the promise given by Allah to Ibrahim alayhi salam, this lineage is blessed with prophecy. And Yaqub alayhi salam also knows that even if my immediate children, the other 11, are not the best, it could be that prophets will come from their children. Right? So he's not saying, I have 11 children, but prophets will only come from the line of who? Yusuf. It could be from the line of my other children, prophets will come to. And by the way, if you study Jewish genealogy, then the other many Israelite prophets, they don't come from the line of Yusuf. They come from the other lines, actually. So he takes a step back and says, Allah will not just bless you, He'll bless my entire family. He didn't say children, he said al, which means future generations. Now, but why include his brothers? Because he just in the previous ayah said brothers are falling into the trap of the devil. So how is Allah going to complete His favor to them? It seems Yaqub alayhi salam's foresight and genius, what was the dream? What will the brothers be doing? Sajda, which means they'll learn from their mistake and they will be humbled. And he knows that. So maybe through you they will learn humility. Maybe they're not able to find humility right now and they're fallen into the trap of the devil, but Allah has created a plan for them to come back to Allah and humble themselves. And it is only after you humble yourself that the doors of blessings open. So Allah will complete, the way He completed His favor on you is by messengership, by prophethood, and He will complete His favor on them because they're making tawbah. And by the way, this is also substantiated in the Quran. Allah didn't just tell the Prophet ﷺ, He will complete His favor upon you. He told the Ummah, وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. And He will, so that He completes His favor upon all of you. So just saying the completing of the favor on the family of Yaqub doesn't make them prophets. Just like Allah telling us, He will complete His favor on all of you, doesn't make us what? Prophets. But in the case of Yaqub and Yusuf is very specific. Because He's teaching you the interpretation of speech. He's teaching you, He's selected you especially. He didn't say that about His brothers. So everything is Yusuf specific until when this favor is given, it seems because they will be making sajda and I will be there. So my entire family is going to get blessed. And this is how Allah plans to continue and give us both those blessings, worldly and spiritual. And guess what happens? They make tawbah. They settle into Egypt. Now they have a good economic life. And they prosper in Egypt. So that favor did get completed, you see. So this is Yaqub alayhi salam looking ahead. Now he's given this remarkable vision to his son about looking ahead to a bright future. Looking ahead to a bright future, this way, keeping an eye on reality at the same time, because your brothers still are trouble. That will come eventually, but don't become blind to what's in front of you, right? So it's not blind optimism. It's cautious optimism. It's pragmatic, practical optimism, practical positivity. Now, check this out. What's coming next? كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَىٰ أَبَوَيْكَ. And by the way, one thing I didn't say, on the family of Yaqub, why did he say Yaqub by name? It's almost as though the feeling this wording gives is that his future generations, the future generations of the children of Israel will look back and say, look at how Allah favored our father Yusuf and his father Yaqub, and look at how he blessed that family. And they will be calling him the family of Yaqub. يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ وَاجْعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. Zechariah, so many generations later, around the time of Jesus, right? This is like way at the tail end of the Israelite legacy. He says, Ya Allah, give me someone to inherit my legacy, who will inherit me and inherit from the children of Yaqub. The same exact words, Ali Yaqub. Like Yaqub was wishing his children will one day say Ali Yaqub, the blessed. And Zechariah in the Quran, from that lineage, refers back to his father's lineage, his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's lineage, and says Ali Yaqub. So it's actually kind of this echoing of this wish that this family be blessed. Also, it's telling Yusuf alayhi salam that we have a great future ahead of us. This is Allah fulfilling His favor on us, and our future generations will get this favor too. Our Prophet ﷺ would tell us from the children of Israel, كُلَّمَا هَلَكَ نَبِيٌّ خَلَفَ نَبِيٌّ. Every time a prophet would die, another would be born. Like there was no generation that didn't have a prophet, actually. So they continued to have prophets, after prophets, after prophets. Anyway, so now, كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَىٰ أَبَوَيْكَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. Just as He completed His favor upon both of your fathers just before, Ibrahim and Ishaq. So He's reminding Yusuf alayhi salam of his two grandfathers, Ibrahim, the great-grandfather, and Ishaq. Now Ibrahim is absolutely critical. You would, if He just mentioned Yaqub, you would actually mention Yaqub, then go one back Ishaq, then go one back Ibrahim. But He says Yaqub and then Ibrahim and Ishaq. He breaks the chronological order and goes straight to who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this is because of the importance and the centrality of Ibrahim alayhi salam. What is Ibrahim alayhi salam's legacy? Ibrahim alayhi salam's legacy in a nutshell is, I'm going to hold on to the truth no matter who loves me and however they love me. If they hate that I hold on to the truth, I'm still going to hold on to the truth. Whether it's the father who raised me or the uncle who raised me or a nation that wants to throw me into a fire, I'm going to hold on to the truth. And if the truth commands that I love my son more than anything else because I've had him in such an old age, and Allah commands me to slaughter him, well, I shall slaughter him. Like my loyalty to Allah will not be pushed aside by my love of anything else, by my fear of anything else. That's Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? It's a pretty remarkable thing to say, to even mention Ibrahim alayhi salam. Listen, you come from the line of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Allah completed His favor on Ibrahim alayhi salam when He blessed his lineage. But He blessed his lineage after putting him through what? The most difficult trials, isn't it? And at the end, way at the end of those trials, the last blessing, the completion of blessing of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the last thing that was given to him was his son Ishaq. This is the youngest son. It was given all the way at the end. So that's where the Israelite legacy begins. So what we're learning is Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't get his blessings until the very end of all those difficult trials. So, and you come from that family, so be ready for trials. Congratulations, you're on the Ibrahim train. That's what He's basically telling him. But take a step back and learn something so powerful about this message. This young boy is going to live in a very toxic environment his entire life. Right after this, the positive light, the spiritual light influence that he had of his father is going to be gone. He's not going to see his father until way later in his life. Then it's going to be toxic brothers, the terribly scary depths of an unfinished well, which could have snakes inside. Then overnight stay in that well until some caravan comes by and pulls them out. They treat him like a commodity, yanking on his shirtless body because the shirt has been taken, right? They're just throwing this kid around, and they're scared that somebody's going to find him, that he must have fallen in here, his family's going to come looking for him. Nobody leaves a kid like this here. right? So they sold him off quickly, and they sold him on a discount price. Now he's coming, he doesn't know where he's going to end up. He doesn't know when he's ever going to see his father again. He's in this life of uncertainty. And in the middle of all of that, through all of that negative environment, an environment of fear, an environment of lack of supervision, a lack of support, there's a constant negativity in his life. But there's two things that are his strength according to this ayah. He's got an eye on the future that Allah has promised him. Allah will put you through tests because He sees something in you. But then somebody could tell me, Ustad Nouman, that's nice, but he was a prophet, Allah chose him. Right? That's not about me. That's a prophet. Allah chose him for greatness and he was going to have redemption in the end and all of that. Well, how is that about me? Surah Al-Hajj, Surah number 22, at the end. Guess what Allah says to every Muslim? Every Muslim. Huwa ijtabakum. He, same word, yajtabika, selected you because of a purpose in you. He selected all of y'all. وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. And in the religion, He didn't put any discomfort for you. Then He said, Allah said, to you and me, to you, not to Yusuf, to you and me. He said, مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. You are the religion of your father Ibrahim. What did He say to Yusuf? What did Yaqub say to Yusuf? Allah has selected you. And then what did He say? That just like He completed His favor on who? Your father? Ibrahim. And now Allah Himself, not Yaqub, Allah Himself is telling who? You and me. He selected all of you. And you are the religion of your father, Ibrahim. He's the one who named you Muslims. He's the one who named you Muslims. Now, huwa sammakum al-muslimin. He named you Muslims. It's interesting. When Yaqub was dying, same father, Yaqub, when he was dying, he said to his children, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي. What are you going to worship after I'm dead? They said, قَالُوا نَعْبُدُ إِلَهَكَ وَإِلَهَ أَبَائِكَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَعِيلَ إِسْحَاقَ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ وَنَحْنُ لَهُ مُسْلِمُونَ. The children of Israel told his father, we're only going to be Muslim to Allah. We're only going to worship the Father. The God of you and the God of your fathers, Ibrahim, Ismail, Ishaq. And we're only Muslim. And Allah said in that ayah, He chose you and He named you what? Muslim. You see a parallel? Allah has chosen. Allah has given you something. He would not have brought you to the blessing of Islam if He didn't see something in you. He would not have brought Yusuf a.s. in through all these trials if he did not see something in him that brings him to Allah's service. And so He says to him, I said two things are going to anchor Yusuf in any difficulty. Number one, Allah has chosen me for a higher purpose. No matter what I'm going through, it's like this. I'm going to give you an analogy so you don't forget this. You're climbing a mountain and you've got a rope, right? You can only climb as high as you threw your rope. If your rope went up 2 feet, all you're going to climb is what? 2 feet, because you can't go anymore. If your rope is 100 feet, you're going to climb up 100 feet. Now this rope is all the way to Allah. And we're climbing. And wherever we're stuck, we can't say we can't go anymore because there's still more rope. There's still more rope. There's still more rope. And you hold on to this rope and you're going to keep on what? Ascending. You're going to keep on climbing. Where you set your rope is going to determine where your eyes are. Eyes on the prize. If your rope was set I just want to get over this problem, that's all I want. I just want to be happy. You could get to the next rock and sit down and be happy for 5 minutes. Then what? Then what? But this is a constant life of struggle because you got to keep ascending up. That's one thing that's going to keep him going. What am I telling you? Every young man and woman that is going to live in a hostile environment to their faith. First of all, the world is hostile to your worldly experience anyway. Whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, you're going to have money problems, health problems, family problems, social problems, anxiety, self-confidence issues. You name it, you're going to have it. Congratulations, that's planet Earth. You don't have to be Muslim for that. But alongside of all of that, there are going to be things that are going to pull away at your faith, aren't they? But if you have a vision that Allah has chosen you, and despite all of your weaknesses and all of your shortcomings and all the things people tell you you're not good at, there's something in you that is so good that Allah decided to give you La ilaha illallah. Because that's not a cheap gift to give somebody. The fact that He gave you that means you have a purpose, and through all of these hurdles inside your head, inside your heart, or outside in your life, you're going to climb over them and keep on climbing and climbing and climbing. That's one thing that keeps someone going in their faith, no matter what they're surrounded by. No matter what they're surrounded by. And I've experienced some of this. When I was in college and I found my religion, when I was in college, my parents had left. My parents moved back to Pakistan. I was living on my own. I could do whatever I want with my time. Whatever I want. In New York City, you can do whatever you want. But thank Allah, I found Islam. And the first thing I found in Islam was purpose. So if I had a weekend, it was going to study Arabic. I was going to go study Quran. Or maybe basketball. But other than that, nothing. Just put yourself to... Because the moment I don't have a purpose, shaitan's waiting for you to take a chill and let go of this rope a little bit, because he's got plenty of places for you to fall. You understand? He loves it when you let go a little bit, because when you're climbing a rope and you loosen your grip, what happens? And he loves that slide. And the moment he loves that slide, he doesn't want you looking up. He actually wants you looking down. Ooh, look at that. Look at that in the world. Look at this in the world. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this. And you keep sliding down. When you look up, you're walking away from things in this world. You're struggling away from that. Even though gravity will never stop pulling, is it? And the devil will keep going. You're getting tired. Relax. Just take a break. Slide. You know, that's his job. That's what he's there to do. So here what I'm trying to tell you is one thing, eye on the future. Eye on purpose. But what's the second thing? What's the second thing? This hit me. It didn't hit me with Yusuf alayhi salam first. It hit me because I'm from Pakistani origin first. I'll tell you that. And then I'll show you why it hit me with Ibrahim alayhi salam later. I didn't have the Quranic view first. I had an ethnic view first. So what happened one time was, India and Pakistan separated, 1947. Whatever you understand of that history, if you're watching and you're Indian, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, we're Muslim before we're anything else. But you know what? The slogan was that this country is going to be formed based on, we're going to establish La ilaha illallah in Pakistan. Pakistan ka matlab kya la ilaha illallah. Muslims were praying throughout the night, Ya Allah, give us a land where we can worship only you, where we can live by your laws. That was the struggle for the Muslims, to have a country of their own so they can live under Islam. And they were afraid of as the British colonizers were leaving, they were afraid of the tyrannical Hindu threat of genocide, and we're going to get massacred and all of this kind of stuff, right? So people were making tahajjud and qiyamul layl, and they were dying and crying all night for the safety of their future generations, begging Allah, Ya Allah, if you don't give us this free land, who's going to worship you? Our children are not going to be able to say La ilaha illallah. They will be turned into different religions. Well, we're going to forget about your teachings, etc. These were the things people were begging and screaming about in the 30s and the 40s before Pakistan became formed, yeah? Fast forward. Pakistan and India share a border, right? And on the other side of the border, there are Muslims too, but there are Sikhs and Hindus and people of other religions. And just across the border, there's a wedding happening in some Hindu family, right? There's a wedding happening, and they've got a party. And there's a Sikh family, and they have a wedding happening. And on this side of the border, in a Pakistani Muslim family, there's a wedding happening of a Muslim family. But if you saw video footage today of the celebration of the Muslim family having their wedding party, and what they're doing to celebrate the wedding, and then you switched over to the Hindu family, and you saw footage on Instagram or on Snapchat of the wedding party that's being held by the Hindu family or the Sikh family. And what's going on? I don't have to describe to you what's going on, y'all. You know. You know. You tell me if you can tell the difference. And then you tell me these people that are acting the way they are, their father was on the other side of that border begging Allah, my children will say La ilaha illallah one day, we don't want to be like them. Yes or no? Yes or no? They were dying for you to be able to say La ilaha illallah, isn't it? Doesn't it put you to shame to think that just 2 generations ago, 3 generations ago, people were in tears before their Rabb so you could pray. You could have the freedom to pray and not worry that somebody will come with a machete behind your head. So you can just pray. And now you go to this country and you walk into a masjid after the adhan. And what do you find? And who does that put? You know what? When I heard that the first time, Dr. Asar Ahmed used to say things like this. When I heard that the first time, I got this sense of I belong to a heritage. I belong to people that prayed that I would be Muslim, that I would hold on to this identity. They gave their lives for it. They bled for it. They got burnt alive for it. And I'm just going to think that prayer is a burden? Or like if it wasn't even my sense of loyalty. When you look ahead, you're looking at Allah. He's the one who's chosen you. When you're looking back, when you're looking down, you're not looking at the world. You're looking at the past and the people behind you whose sacrifices brought you here. And you should be ashamed that you're not, or I should be ashamed. Forget you. You don't have to be ashamed. I'll be ashamed. I have to be ashamed that I'm spitting at their legacy. That I don't care that they went through that, so one day I could be a person of La ilaha illallah. But this is from an ethnic point of view. Then I became a student of the Quran. And when I studied the Quran, my blood ethnicity is less important. And my spiritual ethnicity is my father is Ibrahim. My father, Allah calls him my father. The religion of your father, Ibrahim. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, his legacy gives me an identity. This religion is the religion of Ibrahim. A man, it doesn't matter if anybody's supporting my religion or not. It doesn't matter if people like what I believe or not. It doesn't matter if they're willing to burn me alive for what I believe or not. I'm not letting go of this because my father didn't let go of it. I have to be loyal to my father. That's what I'm going to do. Our entire Prophet's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is restoring the house built by his father, the Kaaba. What is Yusuf alayhi salam being given as an anchor to his identity? You know, if you know they say nowadays, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from. Right? You got to know your roots. You got to have deep roots. What are our deep roots? Our deep roots are Ibrahim. Our roots are Ibrahim alayhi salam. He has given his son two things. Look ahead to where your purpose set by Allah, and look back to the one who fulfilled that purpose, whose legacy you are to be loyal to, which is who? Your own father, Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim wa Ishaq. These two things, if we can give to our kids, then they can go to a college where people are smoking weed and drinking alcohol, and they're taking cocaine, and they're going to parties, and they're having questions about their sexual identity, and they're not sure whether they're male, female, or anything in between. Whatever pronoun they want to use. The people are all kinds of confusion, and they don't know which direction they want to go into. But there you have a young man or a young woman who's got a rope. It only goes in one direction. And when they look back, they don't look back at the world, and they don't look back at others to find an example in them. They look back at their father Ibrahim alayhi salam, and they find strength and they keep going. Either they're looking ahead in the right way, or they're looking back in the right way, and they can go through anything. Any office environment, any college environment, any school environment, any work environment, you name it, they can do it. They don't need nobody around. They could be like Yusuf alayhi salam in a jail and carry it. Because they have both of those. This is what his father gave him in just one ayah. This is what Allah captured in just one ayah. What is it? What is the sense of identity? We say Muslims have an identity crisis. This is the ayah of identity crisis. If anybody could have had an identity crisis, it could have been Yusuf alayhi salam. Nowadays, he could have come to somebody like Yusuf alayhi salam could have come to a therapist and say, yeah, I don't know, my dad, I got separated from him when I was little, and I just been in a tough life, and that's why I switched to crime, and I this, that, or the other, and I lived with a politician, he was super corrupt, so what do you expect me to learn? And then I was in jail. I didn't even do anything, and I was in jail, so I don't like the system, so I try to break the system wherever I can. I hate people. He could have justified it by his life story, right? Trauma, that's why I messed up. He could have said it. But something kept him from breaking. And it's not just prophethood. It's two things. What I'm describing here. What this ayah is describing here. And at the end of it all, as remarkable as your past is, and as remarkable as your future is, what does the ayah end with? Inna rabbaka alimun hakim. And no matter how much you know, that you have talent, that you can figure things out, and no matter how much wisdom you will acquire from interpreting all that speech, remember one thing, son. It is no doubt your master that knows everything, that has all the wisdom. Whatever knowledge you get, whatever wisdom you get, is only drops that your master is dropping on you. Can you imagine the irony if you cooked a plate of food for your child and you put the food in front of them and they say, wow, I can't believe this is delicious. I'm so proud of myself for making it. And you'd be like, I just put that food on your plate. What do you mean you made it? You would think that's ridiculous, right? But human beings, when they acquire knowledge, when they acquire wisdom, when they acquire accomplishments, immediately what do they start doing? Man, I'm really smart. I figured out a lot. Like I know a lot, like even Arabic and stuff. Really, you know Arabic. You figured out a lot. Inna rabbaka alimun hakim. The smartest of people, the wisest of people, prophets are being told, knowledge and wisdom are the property of who? Your Rabb. You're just a slave. And a slave will be given whatever drops the master gives. The ayah began with humility, and the ayah ends also with humility to your Rabb. He's the one who chose you, He's the one who has knowledge and wisdom. And whatever you've been given has been given to you by your Rabb, you remain a slave. And no matter what a great future you have, you will remain humble to your Rabb. And whatever great past you come from will make you proud. I'm from the family of Ibrahim. No, you'll still be a servant to your Rabb, Alimun Hakim. Beginning and ending is humility. And in between is the future and the past. What an incredible ayah. What an incredible ayah. And this ayah shapes basically the entire narrative of the life of Yusuf alayhi salam. His entire life is shaped by this reality. You'll see it come over and over and over again. Whatever situation he finds himself, you'll find this to be the anchor. You know? Yes, he was, the first thing was immediate problem. And now, as I leave you guys, you know, the last thing I'll tell you is two things actually, reminding you what Rabb means. Rabb means nurturing master. Al-Murabbi wal-Mun'im wal-Sayyid wal-Qayyim. Easy English, nurturing master. Who's going to be nurturing you when times are good? Who's going to be nurturing you when times are tough? Who will nurture you with knowledge and wisdom? Who will nurture you with the right course of action? Who will nurture you with the strength to stay away from the wrong? That's going to be your master. Your parents can only nurture you so much. Your father can only protect you so much. Your environment can only protect you so much. At the end of the day, it's just going to be you and your Rabb. That's it. You will come to times in your life where there's going to be nobody that can save you. Only your Rabb can save you. He will put you in those positions. That's one. The second, and the final thing I want to share with you is the timeline. Look at there are only 3 states of time: present, or past, present, and future, right? But look at this. Don't tell your dream to your brothers. Present situation. Allah has a great future for you. Future. Just like He has completed His favor on your fathers. Past. So He dealt with the present, He gave him a vision of the future, and He anchored him into the past. All 3 states of time in His advice. SubhanAllah. In just 2 ayat. And that's the wisdom that Yaqub alayhi salam gave to his son Yusuf alayhi salam. With that, inshallah ta'ala, I conclude today's session. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim. Wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.